Alright class, this is from lesson 9-6 in your textbook, completing the square. It's only one lesson in the textbook, so we're splitting up into 3 days. Today is part 1. It's called finding C. C is going to be a number that we're going to find, and we're going to be able to do this thing called completing the square for a quadratic expression by finding the value of C. You're not going to solve anything today. You're going to find this C value that we're talking about, right? And then we're going to factor. So again, finding this value of C, which is a couple steps, and then we're going to factor. So it's a pretty basic lesson. If you don't get this, it's going to be online. You can look at it on my website. So it's here at school, and then you can look at it at home, and hopefully it works out. Or you can YouTube any other title, or you could YouTube and search any other video with this title, except for the part 1. And you'll find a ton of stuff. I just checked last night. I just figured I'll do my own video since I like my stuff better. Anyway, let's move on to the lesson. Here we go. Remember the standard form of quadratics. Please write this down. The standard form of quadratic equations is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We learned that last week. And this is where we factored, or we moved stuff to the right side, and we solved for x squared, and we got 2 answers, and all that stuff. This is another way that we do standard form because it's written with ax squared, bx, and c, except there's no equal sign. And that's okay too. Either way, we're focusing on this today. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we'll focus on this side. But for right now, this is what we're doing right here. So we'll be given an equation or an expression that looks like ax squared plus bx, and then we're going to calculate c. This is what I meant by finding c. So we're going to be given these 2 values here, and this one we're going to have to calculate and find. From there, we'll factor after that. Alright, so hopefully you had enough time to copy this down. If you didn't, look to someone left or right of you, or hopefully you can go back online and finish this also. Alright, here we go in 3 and 2 and 1. Alright, so recall. Recall means let's revisit. Let's factor this expression x squared plus 6x plus 9. That means we want 2 parentheses. We're not going to solve and get x equals, and we're not going to get 2 answers. So you can do these 2 ways. If you don't remember how to do this the quick way, I'll just show you. This is an easy problem because there's no number in front of our x squared. There's no 2, 3, 4, 5 we have to worry about. There's no GCF also. So if we do our quick factor x, oh, you can't see that. Let me switch colors here. If we do our quick factor x, we're going to get a 9 at the top for our product, or where we multiply to get. And we're going to get a 6 for the sum. So 2 numbers that multiply make 9 and make 6, and when you add are 3 and 3. Right? Another way you could have found this is by simply understanding that these are perfect squares. I can take the square root of x squared, and I can take the square root of 9. The square root of x squared is a simple x. The square root of 9 is a simple 3. Right? Remember what I said before, if we multiply the 2 together and we get our 3x, that's going to be half of the middle term, right? So half of 6x is 3x. So we know this is going to work. So either we pull from here, or we're going to pull from here. Either way, we're going to end up with x and 3. So it's going to be x plus 3 times quantity x plus 3. And where we get this plus sign is basically from this second term. There's a plus sign here, so we've got to have plus signs here. If there was a minus sign here, we would put minus signs here. Now what I want you to start doing today is actually from this step right here, x plus 3, x plus 3. I want you to start writing your answers like this. And this is for tomorrow. So tomorrow is easier. But for today, this is what I want you to do. Now, we didn't find C yet. What we did was factor. Why did we do this? Because I want you to try and understand what we're going to do today. Today, and I'm going to erase some of this work. Today, I'm not going to, the problem is going to give you all of this, x squared plus 6x plus 9. It's going to give you everything except the 9. So I'm covering it up on purpose. So it's going to give you x squared plus 6x. So let me clean this up a bit. So if you get x squared plus 6x, our job is to find this missing number c. And that's going to be what you do today. After you find C, then you're going to go and complete the factoring process. So let's take a look. We know the number is going to be 9, right? I just covered it up. So how do we get there? Well, I left this part circled for a reason. I want you to see what's happening. We know this has to be 9 for you to factor and get x plus 3, x plus 3. So let's figure out the relationship between 6 and 3. We just said earlier, or I just said that 3 is half of 6, right? So from 3, how do we get 9, right? There was a 9 right here. So half of 6 is 3. 3 to 9. Some of you might be saying, I can just multiply 3 times 3. You're right? 3 times 3 is 9. So when we simplify this process, it's called squaring, or completing the square. Right now, we don't have a complete square because we're missing this 9. So to get our 9, let me erase now the middle portion. Oops. So to complete our square, we take the middle term. This is called the b term. We're going to take b, and this is the step. We're going to take b, we're going to take half of it, or divide by 2. Right? So actually I like the 1/2 method better because it makes fractions easier. And then we're going to have to square it. Right? So let's think of this using numbers. Half of 6 is our 3. Then 3 times 3 is our 9, the one that I crossed out. So half of 6 is 3. 3 squared equals 9. So we're going to take half the b term by multiplying times a half, and then we're going to square it. And this is how you find c every single time. Every single time. Now, the b value can change. It can be an odd number, it can be an even number, it can be a fraction. But this is the process to find c every single time. b times a half and quantity squared. So we have to multiply by a half first, then we square second, because parentheses first, right? So now that you got this written down, let's actually try this. All right, let's try this. Let's go do some problems. All right, here we go. Completing the square and factor. So if you notice, I have C written in some of the problems, and in this last one I don't have it written. That's because I want you to get used to the fact that if it says complete the square and they don't show you the C, you're still going to do the same process. So whether there's a C term shown or whether there's a C term not shown, you're doing the same thing. So let's identify our B term. Our B term in our first problem is 4x, or just 4. So what we're going to do is take 4 and multiply it times a half, and we're going to square it. So C is going to equal half of 4 squared. So half of 4, if you need a fraction, refresher on fraction, that's really 4 over 1. So you're going to get a nice 2 here. And 2 squared equals 4. So C equals 4. That's the number you put inside here. So let's factor this out. X squared plus 4x plus 4. Now, the directions also say factor right here. So we just completed the square. We found our C value, right? Now we have to factor. We need 2 parentheses, right? So we know that these are perfect squares now because we just did the completing the square. These numbers have square roots, right? That's the whole point of this. So we know the square root of x squared is x. I'm going to have that twice. We know the square root of 4 is going to be 2. We know that we have a plus sign here in the middle where b is. So we're going to have plus signs here. And we can write our final answer as now x plus 2 quantity squared. And this is what you're doing. Now some of you are starting to make some connections. You're saying, wait a minute, I have x plus 2 in my answer. I have x plus 2, x plus 2. And then there's a 2 here. What you're going to see is that this 2 and this 2 are from the same place. They come from the same place. So if you're starting to make these connections, great. If not, just do it the way I'm showing you. We're going to do a lot of these problems. We've got 9 in total, right? We've got 1 down. So here we go. Let's do number 2 now. Again, identify your b term. This time it's a negative 12. So we're going to take c equals, it's going to be our negative 12 times a half, and we're going to square this, right? So again, if you need to, put a 1 underneath your negative 12. And let's simplify. That's going to be 1 and 6, right? So negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. What we're going to do is square this. So this is going to come out to positive 36. This is our new c term. So substitute it in. X squared minus 12x plus 36. Right? We're not solving for x. There's no equal sign here, equals 0 or anything. We're just factoring. Now some of you are going to say, well, I know I'm going to get 2 parentheses that are identical. So can I just go straight to this term? Sure. Right? Just make sure you factor correctly. Our first term is going to be x. Our second term is going to either come from here or here. Square root 36 and you get 6. So the numbers are the same. So how do we know where the sign is? Well, if you follow my shortcut, that's the sign for this 6. Or there's the minus sign again. So either way, here or here, you're going to get a minus symbol, and that's the way this works. X minus 6 quantity squared. This is a very easy process. Just make sure you do it carefully so that you don't make mistakes and you have to do these over again. All right, let's move on to 3. Again, going to take half of negative 8. This is our b term. So take half of it. Then we square it. Now some of you are doing this in your head. That's negative 4 quantity squared, which is going to be a nice little 16. That is our c term. That goes right here where c isn't. Right? I didn't write c because I want you to know that you still have to find it, whether you see the letter c or not. So let's substitute this. A squared minus 8a plus 16. So we know the first term is going to be a. We can go directly to the squared symbol, and all we have to do is either find our negative 4, find our negative 4 here, or take the square root of 16 and get another 4. And then in terms of sign, we know we have a negative here, so we're going to put a minus. We have a negative here, so we're going to put a minus. Either way, there's a bunch of hints and clues in your work that will show you what to do. That's if you do your work. So what's the point of the lesson? Do your work. Show your work. Give yourself hints. They're listed all over the steps that I've shown you. This is completing the square in a nutshell. These are for even numbers. What we're going to do is now go into odd numbers. All right, here we go. All right. Here I'm going to go a little bit quicker because I don't want to take too much time doing the same thing over and over again. Before we were building the idea. So how do you do these with odd numbers? Well, same process. We're going to take the 5. We're going to multiply times a half. Right? And then we're going to square it. Now, the beauty of this is that you don't have any reducing or dividing by 2 actually happening because 5 and 2 cannot go into 5. So you just multiply this across. This is 5 over 2 squared, which is going to be 25 over 4. You multiply the top by itself and the bottom by itself. 5 squared and 2 squared. So that's our c term. That goes right here. So let's rewrite this. X squared plus 5x plus 25 over 4. All right. Now some of you are like, how do I factor this? Remember, the hints are in the problem. We know that we're going to have x and we're going to have a squared symbol because it's going to appear twice. Well, take the square root of 25 over 4. Right? Square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 4 is 2. Where do I see a 5/2 again? Here's the 5/2 right up here. Right? So there it is in the problem. Right? It's right here. You can actually take the square root of it and check your work right here. Either way, you should end up with 5/2. It's all within the problem. Right? Sign-wise, you know that this is a positive sign because there's no negative. You see a positive on the b term, so it's a plus. It's all in the steps. Right? So if you just show your work, you're going to find your answers. It's that simple. And I know I'm saying this right now, but some of you are going to go home and be like, I don't know how to do this. It's because you're not showing your steps. You're not looking for the patterns. Right? Let's go to the second problem, negative 7. Same process. Negative 7 times 1/2. We're going to square it. Put a 1 underneath if you need to. That's negative 7 over 2 squared, which comes out to positive 49 over 4. If you're wondering why it's positive, it's because it's a negative times itself. Negative times negative is positive. This is our c term. That's what goes right there. So rewriting, we get x squared minus 7x plus 49 over 4. Again, the work shows all your steps, meaning I know exactly what this number is going to be right here. It's going to be either the square root of 49 over 4 or negative 7 over 2, right? If you don't believe me, square root 49, that's 7, and square root 4, that's 2. In terms of symbol, it's either right here where you see the negative sign, or it's right here where you see another negative sign. Genius, isn't it? There we go. All right, so by now you should be seeing a ton of patterns. If not, you can be moving ahead, that's fine. Either way, I'm doing the same steps over and over again, and that's just to show you that, oops, I went ahead. That's just to show you that this process is not changing at all. I'm trying to talk too much now. So that's going to be negative 13 over 2 squared, and that's going to be 169 over 4. Now, for the negative 13 squared, you might want to use the back of your assignment guide where I put the square roots and squares. You can use that, that's fine. I don't mind at all. So that's there. So we get a squared minus 13a plus 169 over 4. Again, either take the square root of 169 and take the square root of 4, or you can look at the fraction right here and you get 13 over 2. Alright, any questions so far? I forgot. I'm not here to answer them. I'm just talking. Alright, that's it for now. That's it for now with these odd numbers. I don't mean we're done. Alright, so here it is. Next, we're going to move on to fractions in our B term. Alright, now some of you might be looking at this and going, oh no, like this is going to be painful. Actually, this is quite easy if you understand the patterns. Alright, so here we go. Here's our B term. Alright, we're going to do half of our B term. So 2/3 times 1/2. We're going to square it. That's going to be C. Well, lo and behold, I see I can cancel these 2's out, right? This is just fraction work back from 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. It's going to be 1 over 1, which is going to make a nice 1 over 3 squared. Let's square that. That's 1/9. This is our C term. Right? That goes right there. So let's go back and substitute. X squared plus 2/3 x plus 1/9. Right? And again, you might be wondering, how do I find the square root of 1/9? Well, just take the square root. We know it's going to be x. We know it's going to be squared. That's going to be, the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 9 is 3. Or you can just find the answer right here. Either way, it's all in your work. Positive sign because there's a plus sign in the middle, so plus 1/3. Alright? Again, it's really very simple. And you don't have too many of these on your homework. You have some of them, but you don't have too many. Most of them are like the first set and the second set. This is the third set, and there's not too many of these, but you do have them. So now we're just going to work them out. Alright guys, we're pros. We understand what we're doing. We know we have to multiply it by 1/2 and square. This time there's no canceling out here, so we just multiply straight across. -5 times 1, 8 times 2. It's -5 over 16. We're going to square that. Again, back of the assignment sheet has all your squares. That's going to be 16 squared, 256. All right. So now we go back and do x squared minus 5/8 x plus 25 over 256. And then we go ahead and do x minus, and either we take the square root of 25 and 256, or we find that, hey, it's right there, 5 over 16. And again, always in your work. And lastly, number 9, take our -3/5. Right, don't forget that negative symbol. It's the biggest mistake I see. Multiply by 1/2, square. We can't cancel anything out. 3 and 2 not going to work. 1 and 5 obviously don't work. So that's going to be -3 over 10. Multiply straight across. Square that. That's going to be 9 over 100. Right, so that's what we do. A squared minus 3/5 a plus 9 over 100. And finally, we take the perfect square. What am I talking about? Never mind. Forget what I just said. There's a minus sign right here. There's a minus sign right here, so we know it's a minus. Square root of 9, square root of 100, 3 over 10. And we're done. This is all you're doing today, right? This is your work. If you get confused, ask the partner next to you quietly, or you can just look at this video over again. It's only been 18 minutes, right? That's pretty short for me. So look at it, stop and pause, rewind, whatever you need to do. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.